Fola had just finished a grueling 14-hour night shift at the hospital. Exhausted, she dragged her feet home, dreaming only of her pillow and peace. But as she turned into her street, she noticed bright lights, music, and crowds spilling into her yard. Confused and dizzy from fatigue, she pushed through the crowd, only to freeze in place. A full wedding was underway, right there in her backyard. And as she stepped closer, she saw the groom's face and everything shattered inside her.
Yeah, I'm just taking a quick break.
Fola was the kind of woman who never complained, no matter how hard life became.
Hey, yeah, I'm on
She
break
worked
now.
long hours as a
How's your day
nurse,
going?
often through the
Busy
night,
but good.
just to
Calls
make
nice
sure
break.
there was food on the table and medicine for her aging, widowed father. After her mother passed away, she took over every responsibility without ever asking for help. She cleaned, cooked, paid the bills, and still found the strength to smile. Fola didn't live for riches.
Of course.
All
Just
she wanted was peace, respect, and a little bit of love.
I'm here.
And that love, she thought, had come in the form of Ian, a soft-spoken school teacher who always made time for her. They had been seeing each other quietly for over a year. He wasn't flashy or rich, but he had a gentle way of making her feel seen. He would send sweet messages, call her during her breaks, and listen when she was tired after a long shift. Thayer believed their love was real. A simple, quiet kind of love that made all her sacrifices feel worth it.
That means everything.
She never asked him for gifts or promises of a grand future. She just wanted someone to believe in her the way she believed in him. Every night shift she worked, every sleepless morning she came home to care for her father, she held on to the hope that one day things would be better, that maybe she and Ian could build something beautiful together. But Fola had no idea that the love she trusted so deeply was hiding a secret that would break her heart in the cruelest way.
Thank you.
Fola's eyes were heavy as she stepped off the bus. Her legs ached from standing all night, and all she wanted was to collapse into her bed. The hospital shift had been long and draining with barely a moment to rest. As she turned into her street, she noticed something strange. There were so many cars parked on both sides of the road, and they all looked expensive. Big SUVs and shiny sedans she didn't recognize. Her heart began to race, but she told herself to stay calm. Maybe someone nearby was throwing a party. As she got closer to her house, the sound of music grew louder. It wasn't just music. It was celebration music, drums, laughter, singing, even people dancing. Thayer rubbed her eyes, thinking maybe the tiredness was making her see things. But no, the scene was real. Her front yard, the very space where she used to hang clothes and sweep every morning, had been transformed completely. Big white tents stood tall, decorated with flowers and golden ribbons. Rows of white chairs were filled with guests dressed in fine lace and expensive traditional wear. Caterers moved quickly, carrying trays of food and drinks. Children ran around in matching outfits. It was a full wedding. Fola stood still, unable to take a step forward, her heart beat faster, her mind spinning. She looked around, hoping to find a familiar face, someone to explain what was happening. Her house, the place she called home, was at the center of this grand event. She forced herself to move, walking slowly through the crowd. Nobody stopped her. Some guests gave her curious looks, but most were too busy smiling and celebrating to care. She whispered to herself, "Whose wedding is this? Why is it happening here?" But no answer came. The closer she got to the front, the more her chest tightened. Something didn't feel right. Something was very, very wrong. Fola pushed through the crowd slowly, still trying to understand what was happening. Her heart was beating so fast she could hear it in her ears. She passed smiling guests, loud music, and camera flashes. Every step felt heavier than the last. Her eyes moved across the faces, searching for someone she knew, someone who could tell her this was all a mistake. But then her eyes landed on the groom. Her breath caught in her throat. Her legs stopped moving. It was Ian. The same Econ who had looked her in the eyes just yesterday and told her he couldn't see her because of urgent family issue. The same man who held her hands and called her my peace. There he was standing under the big white canopy dressed in a beautiful white abaya with gold embroidery, smiling at the crowd. But when he saw her, everything changed. Ekon's smile disappeared. His eyes met hers for only a second before he quickly looked away, pretending like he didn't know her. Fola stood frozen, staring at him in disbelief. Her knees felt weak, and the noise around her faded. All she could hear was her own heartbeat, and the painful silence between her and the man she thought she knew. People were clapping, laughing, dancing, but inside Fola, everything had gone quiet. It was like the ground under her feet had opened. Her chest burned and her hands started shaking. She felt like screaming, but no words came out. She took one step back, then another as tears welled in her eyes. How could he? How could the man who told her he loved her be standing there marrying someone else in her own backyard, and worse? He couldn't even face her. As Fola stood there lost in shock, a soft hand touched her shoulder. She turned and saw her neighbor, Mama Titi, an older woman who had always been kind to her. Mama Titi's face was full of worry. She gently pulled Fola away from the crowd into a quiet corner beside the house. "My dear," she whispered, "you deserve to know the truth before you go mad from confusion." Fola blinked, trying to focus. Her heart was still racing, her mind spinning. Mama Titi looked around to make sure no one was listening, then leaned closer. "Ekon's family never wanted you. She said they think you're not good enough. They said you're just a nurse. No family riches, no big name, no inheritance. They want someone with status." Fola's mouth opened, but no words came. The pain hit deeper now, not just from Ian, but from the people who judged her for simply being hardworking and honest. Mama Titi continued, "They've been planning this wedding for weeks. The bride is the daughter of a rich politician from Abuja. Her family has power, and Ian's parents wanted that connection more than anything. They told Ian to forget about you." Faye felt like her chest was on fire. Every word stabbed like a knife. She had no idea this was happening behind her back while she was busy working night after night, thinking she was building a future with Ian. But then came the worst part. Mamadi sighed deeply. "And the reason they're using your compound?" Your father agreed. They gave him a big amount of money to rent the space. He told them you wouldn't be around because of your night shifts. Fola's knees almost gave way. Her own father, the man she had been taking care of, the man she cooked and cleaned for, the man she sacrificed sleep and comfort for, had sold her out. He didn't even tell her. He let her come home to this betrayal like she was nothing. Faye felt her eyes burn. It wasn't just heartbreak now. It was deep, raw betrayal from every corner of her life. And in that moment, standing in the shadows of her own backyard, Faye knew something inside her had changed forever. Faye walked slowly into the house, her hands trembling. Her father was sitting on the sofa, pretending like nothing had happened outside. But the moment he saw her face, pale and filled with pain, he looked down. Fola's voice shook as she asked, "Daddy, how could you let this happen here in our own compound?" He sighed and didn't meet her eyes. "Fola, I had no choice," he said quietly. "No choice," she cried. "You sold me out. You didn't even tell me. You let them use our home to marry off the man I loved, and I found out like a stranger." Then he finally looked up, eyes full of shame. "They promised me money, enough to clear all the debts I owe. They said they'd take care of everything if I just agreed. I didn't think it would hurt you like this. I was desperate." Fola stepped back like he had slapped her. The man she had given everything for, cooking, cleaning, working night shifts just to make sure he never lacked anything, had thrown her under the bus for cash. He chose his peace over her pride. He chose money over her dignity. But the pain wasn't over yet. As she stood there, her phone buzzed. One message after another poured in from her coworkers and friends. "Congratulations, Fola. We're on our way to your wedding," one said. Another message read, "Can't believe you didn't tell us about the big day bride-to-be." Faye stared at the screen in confusion and horror. She opened the attached pictures, fake wedding invitations with her name printed boldly as the bride. Tears rolled down her face. Econ's family hadn't just betrayed her quietly. They had turned her into a joke. They used her name to invite people just to cover their lies so that no one would suspect anything. People thought she was the bride while the real bride was someone else. Her coworkers were probably getting dressed, bringing gifts, expecting to celebrate her love story. The humiliation was unbearable. Fuller stood frozen. Her heart shattered into tiny pieces. In one day, she lost the man she loved, the trust in her father, and the respect she had worked so hard to earn. This wasn't just heartbreak. This was war. And deep inside, something strong and dangerous had just woken up. Fola stood outside for a long moment, her heart beating like a drum, but her face showed no emotion. All the pain, all the shock, it was buried deep now. She had cried enough. Now she was calm. Too calm. With slow, steady steps, she walked straight into the middle of the wedding ceremony like she belonged there. The music lowered, heads turned. The officiant was just about to start speaking, but Fola raised her hand gently. "Please," she said in a clear, steady voice. "Before you begin, I have a few words." Gasps echoed across the crowd. Econ's eyes widened in horror. He stood frozen beside his new bride, who looked around in confusion. Her rich parents whispered to each other, clearly unsure of what was happening. Some guests shifted uncomfortably in their chairs while others leaned forward, eager to see what drama was about to unfold. But Fola didn't shake. She didn't shout. She didn't cry. She simply looked around with calm eyes as if she was the one in control. Because in that moment, she was. Every single eye in that compound was now on her. Ian opened his mouth trying to speak, but no words came out. His lips trembled. The bride looked at him, then at Fola, then back at the confused officiant. Fola took another step forward. "I'm not here to stop the wedding," she said softly. "I just want everyone to know the truth before this begins. You see, this man," she pointed at Ian without blinking, "was in my house last week, holding my hand and telling me he loved me. He said he couldn't meet yesterday because of family issues. This," she waved her hand at the decorations. "This is the issue." More gasps. Murmurs filled the air like buzzing bees. The bride's mother clutched her purse tighter. The groom's relatives looked down, embarrassed. Fola smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was the kind of smile that said, "I'm hurt, but I'm still standing. I just wanted you all to know," she finished. "Now, please carry on." Then she turned around, walking out slowly, gracefully, like a queen leaving a battlefield. And though her heart was still broken, the look on everyone's face showed one thing clearly. Fair had won the moment. Fair stood still, holding the crowd in silence. She didn't shout. She didn't cry. She just took a deep breath and began to speak, her voice calm and steady. "I'm not here to fight anyone," she said, looking around at the guests. "I'm not here to beg either. I just want to tell a small story. My story." The guests leaned in. Even the bride's father stopped whispering. Everyone wanted to hear what she had to say. "I met Ian 2 years ago. He was kind, gentle, and I believed him. I believed every word he said. I worked night shifts as a nurse. And even when I was tired, I would still come home and cook, clean, and care for my father. I gave everything I had, my time, my energy, my heart to 2 men. One I loved like a partner. The other I loved like a father." She looked at Ian and her father, both standing still like statues. "I never asked for gold. I never wanted big things. I just wanted respect, truth, loyalty." Gasps came from different parts of the crowd. Some people started shaking their heads in disbelief. "I didn't know," she continued, "that my love was not enough. I didn't know that my job as a nurse made me less. But today, I see everything clearly." She reached into her small handbag and pulled out a white envelope. She held it up. "This is a letter from a global health organization. They are honoring me. Yes, me. The same woman who is just a nurse for saving over 150 lives during the last disease outbreak. The same letter has now been shared all over social media. People around the world are celebrating me. She turned and looked straight at the bride's parents. You wanted a wedding filled with wealth, but what you don't know is that dignity, hard work, and love are richer than gold. Then she placed the letter on the table beside the wedding cake and stepped back. Nobody spoke, not even the officiant. The only sound was the soft rustling of the wind. And just like that, with calm words and quiet truth, Fola didn't just take back her power. She owned the whole moment. The moment Fola stepped back and placed the letter down, silence filled the air. But it didn't last long. The bride's father, a powerful man known by many, slowly stood up from his seat. His face was tight with anger, and his voice cut through the quiet. "What is this?" he shouted, pointing at Ian and his family. "What kind of nonsense is this? Who lies like this?" People turned to watch him. Guests whispered. The bride looked lost and confused, her hands shaking as she looked from Fola to Ian. "You told us she was just a tenant," the bride's father yelled. "You said she had no connection to this man, that she was just living in the house while you prepared for this wedding." Ikan's mother stood up quickly, trying to calm him. "Please, sir, let us explain." "Explain what?" He cut her off. "That your son was living a double life. That he used this poor girl and let her think she was the only one while you were collecting bride price behind closed doors." The bride's mother covered her mouth in shock. The bride herself sat down hard, her white dress crumpling beneath her, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I will not allow this," the official roared. "This wedding is over. It ends now." Gasps filled the tent. Someone dropped a glass. A baby started crying in the background. Ian tried to speak, stuttering, but no one listened. His voice was swallowed by the chaos. The officiant slowly closed his book. The musicians stopped playing. Guests began to stand up, some shaking their heads, others whispering in disbelief. Ikan's mother rushed to her son, trying to defend him, but the bride's family was already walking out, leaving behind their expensive decorations, food, and gifts. And Fola. She stood quietly in one corner, her eyes calm. She didn't scream, didn't run. She had said her truth, and now the lies were breaking apart on their own. The wedding that was supposed to show off riches and power had turned into a disaster. All because of a woman who had nothing but truth, and that was more powerful than anything money could buy. The next morning, the internet exploded with Fo's story. Someone at the wedding had secretly recorded her calm but powerful speech, and now the video was everywhere. It was on blogs, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. People were sharing it faster than wildfire. In the video, Fola stood with grace, speaking her truth without shouting, without insults, just facts from a woman who had been betrayed but refused to be broken. People across the country were touched. They couldn't believe how much strength she had. Standing there after everything, after being lied to, used, and humiliated. Comments flooded in, calling her a queen, a warrior, and a true example of grace under pressure. Even news stations picked up the story, calling it the wedding that uncovered the truth. While Ikan and his family were being dragged online, Fola was being celebrated. Strangers were praying for her, encouraging her, and thanking her for reminding everyone what true strength looked like. Many said she inspired them to stand up for themselves, to stop being silent when treated unfairly. By the afternoon, her phone rang. It was a call from a powerful women's foundation. They had seen her story and were moved by her courage. They told her they believed she had leadership in real leadership. They have followed her a scholarship to study public health leadership abroad. They said the world needed more women like her, strong, wise, and brave. Fola couldn't believe it. The same world that tried to shame her yesterday was now lifting her up. Her hospital also called. They promoted her to lead nurse, saying her calm response in a moment of crisis showed she had more than just medical skills. She had true leadership. From tears to triumph, Fola's life began to change. She was no longer the girl everyone overlooked. She became a voice for women, a light to many, and proof that dignity always wins in the end. Ekon couldn't believe it. After everything that happened, he tried to reach out to Fola, sending her desperate messages, calling her phone over and over. He needed to explain, to beg for her forgiveness. But Fola, who had once given him all her trust and love, was no longer waiting for him to fix things. She had moved on. Then came her father. He showed up at her door crying, apologizing, asking her to come back home. He had made a mistake, he said, and he was sorry for choosing money over her happiness. He begged her to forgive him and return to the life they once had. But Fola had already made her decision. She was done living for others, done giving all of herself to people who didn't value her. Fola had packed her things and moved into a new apartment, one that was small but hers. It was a gift from the Women's Foundation, a fresh start, a place where she could finally breathe and be free. As she stepped into the new space, she felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. She was free from the lies, the manipulation, and the expectations that had once controlled her life. That evening, she stood on her new balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. For the first time in weeks, she smiled. Not because of revenge, not because she had won, but because she had chosen herself. She realized she was no longer defined by her past, by the men who betrayed her, or by a family who sold her dignity. Fola had found herself again, and for the first time she was living for her own happy. She was moving forward, not looking back. It wasn't about forgiveness or forgetting. It was about healing and choosing a future that was hers and hers alone. In that moment, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Fola knew her journey was just beginning.